Top of the day, beautiful people. Let's start our conversation here. The story that you tell today was written by a version of you trying to survive yesterday. The stories that you tell yourself today, the stories, the narratives that guide your decisions and your choices, those stories were written by a version of you that was trying to survive yesterday. Let's try this open. Many of us struggle on this healing journey with this sense of, I'm trying to fix myself, I'm trying to heal myself. Many of us have the complex of already feeling like I'm broken, and that's the place that I'm starting from. I would like to offer to you that you're not broken, you're living by a story that was never meant to guide your whole life. The struggle that many of us experience in our lives today is that we're trying to succeed in today's environment with a story that was meant and created to survive yesterday's trauma. Little bits, happy healing to you. Welcome to the conversation. Kiki, I hope I said that right. Happy healing to you and welcome to the conversation. Kiki says, I am trying to learn myself. If that is the case, you're in the right place, because one of the core foundations of happy healing and what I teach is that nobody is coming to save you, because at your core, you are created with all that you need to nurture, love, and do all the things that you're desiring from outside of you. And if you learn yourself in the way that you were truly created, you will understand that everything has always been within you. You're not broken. You're just living by a story that was never meant to guide you your whole life. The narratives that you use to make your decisions and to guide you and to lead you to through life, those narratives were meant to survive yesterday's trauma and not thrive in today's environment. And that is part of the struggle. If you've ever said to yourself, bad things always happen to me, or maybe you said to yourself, I always mess things up, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy, then if these are phrases that you hear, what you're hearing is the voice of an inner child that still holds on to those beliefs and is still impacting your adult decisions today. Kiki, again, you're very welcome. The beliefs that hold us back The beliefs that hold us back the most today were created by a younger version of you that was just trying to make sense of the pain. Here's I'm gonna share something that makes this, hopefully simplifies it for you all. We talked about this yesterday and even the day before about why we develop the limiting belief. For everybody that's coming in here and liking the conversation, liking the live, that is your small contribution, not only to saying thank you, but is your small contribution to expanding this message to make sure that somebody else hears it. So I say thank you. But we've been talking about this, how there's a reason why we form the narratives. There's a reason why we form the limiting belief. That reason is simply in trying to protect ourselves. But if the environment that we were trying to protect ourselves in no longer exists, then those beliefs and those behaviors are not protecting you anymore. They're imprisoning you now. Let's unpack it. Children don't experience trauma and say, my parents failed me, my caregivers failed me, the adults failed me. That's not what happened. When as a child, when you experience that trauma, you say something must be wrong with me. But why? Because as a child, you only have access to one lens, you. You only see the world and you only have context of the world from that one perspective. You can't comprehend the complexities of adult behavior, so you internalize everything that you experience. If you wasn't loved, you say, I must not be lovable. If they left you, you say, it must be my fault. I must not be worthy of someone staying for, right? Listen to this carefully. Your mind would rather create a painful explanation than sit with the unknown. Why? Because the unknown presents a level of danger. So at least the narrative or the limiting belief that I adopt, first thing, it stops me from continuously seeking the thing that clearly I'm not receiving. Every time I desire the love that I'm not receiving and I seek it or I'm expecting it and I don't get it, it creates that pain. So the limiting belief of I must not be lovable stops me from continuously seeking that love again. It also puts a reason in my childlike mind as to why I'm not getting the love that everyone else is getting. That's how the brain works. This is how your survival story begins. And once it's written, the brain, especially your nervous system, starts running with it as if these are the facts. Many of you literally tell your story like it's a fact. Again, I love bringing this up because it was so impactful. A client said, if I was lovable, they would have loved me, and have been living by that statement most of her life. Within that statement, there is a presumption that they are perfect. But here's the reality. In her adult mind, that statement doesn't make sense because she knows the people that didn't love her are not perfect. She knows their flaws. She knows their shortcomings. But that child that holds the wound, that child that needed a reason to stop seeking that love, that child accepted that she was not lovable. And that child has been holding on to that belief. And even though she's gone on to be a grown woman and have accomplished and achieved things in her life, until that inner child is nurtured away from that limiting belief, your adult life will always bear the pains of that unhealed wound. Does that make sense to you all? Kiki, to your point, Kiki says, if they even knew love, right? So if you think about the narrative that if I was lovable, they would have loved me. That narrative excludes the reality of, did they even know how to love themselves? Did they even know love? But when you are living by that narrative that if I was lovable, they would have loved me, you don't even consider those facts because your narrative becomes the facts. Purple hearts in the chat if that makes sense to you, please. Let's go a little bit deeper into why the inner child wrote those stories. Session 4 of the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge is creating your inner safe space. It is one of the most profound practices that I teach people. The power of your inner safe space gives you the ability to process complex emotional issues with any parts of yourself, whatever experiences you've had and the versions of yourself that are holding on to those wounds. Your inner safe space gives you the ability to process those complex emotional things in a way that brings results that serve you because you're able to nurture the part of you that holds the limiting belief. But let's go back so that what I just said makes a little more sense. Why does the inner child write those stories anyway? Why do we need the limiting belief? I laid out 2 reasons. One, because the brain does not like the unknown. If there is no reason why this is happening to you, then it presents an ongoing danger. So by creating or putting a reason there, it eliminates the unknown and supposedly removes the danger. The other reason is when you adopt the limiting belief, you stop seeking the thing that you are not receiving. So if it's they don't love you and they're not giving you love, eventually you tell yourself, I must not be lovable, because it helps you to stop seeking love from the people that keep letting you down and you keep reliving that pain. Zakia, happy healing to you. Welcome to the conversation. So when the pain happens, there's no safe space to process it. So your younger selves becomes the author, the therapist, and the protector all at once. You have to write the explanation and the narrative for why this is happening to you. You give yourself some sense of soothing by giving yourself the limiting belief. Because as long as I adopt that I'm not lovable, that gives me some sense of, okay, I can stop seeking love from these people. I don't have to keep reliving that pain. And now I develop a persona to protect the wound that I have now accepted. So I am the therapist, the author, and the protector all at once. But here's the problem. This younger version of me is writing with incomplete knowledge or incomplete logic, immature emotions, and limited understanding. So what they're going to create, or what I end up creating, is a simple, emotionally charged belief. It's my fault. I have to be perfect. No one will ever choose me. I am not lovable. I am not worth it. I am not worthy of somebody staying for. I'm not worthy of somebody fighting for. That is how that logic gets developed by that inner child. And what do we end up doing? Here's the thing though, remember, and just be clear, it's not that child version of you's fault, because that child version of you was not wrong. It's just that you didn't have the tools to see the whole picture. And with those limited tools, you've created a narrative and a story to help you understand what happened. And that limited story, based on protection, based on your limited logic, based on your undeveloped emotions and your limited understanding, that is the narrative that you have been living by unconsciously, because that unhealed wound is still influencing your unconscious thoughts and your unconscious behaviors. And that protection becomes your prison. Even deeper than that, here's where it gets even deeper. Once the narrative is written, it becomes more than just a belief, it also becomes your filter. Everything you experience now runs through that filter. Let me give you some examples. You get passed up for a promotion. What do you say? See, I'm never good enough. Sakia, thank you. Whenever a friend cancels a plan, it's nothing deep. It wasn't nothing more than something came up. What do you tell yourself? It must be me. I must be too much, or they must not have wanted to hang out with me, or it must be something that I said the last time we had a conversation. What happens? You make a simple mistake, and what do you tell yourself? I'm always ruining things. I'm always messing things up. You're extra harsh on yourself, not because those things are true, but because the subconscious is looking for evidence to support the story. Your narrative not only becomes your belief, it becomes your filter. It starts to only show you evidence that supports the narrative. You'll say things like, nobody cares about me. Like that becomes your narrative that you operate from. You don't even realize when you say it in your mind. I know there are people that care about me, but like generally nobody cares about me. That's what you're thinking. But the reality is that statement is coming from a deeper place, and that is a narrative, a story that is shaping your decisions and your choices. As if choices and decisions are different, right? Um, Joe says, Thanks to happy healing, we will never be living in that mindset ever again. Come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. The mind isn't loyal to your potential, it's loyal to your programming. Your mind is not loyal to your potential, to your desires, to your dreams, to your aspirations, to your greatest thoughts of yourself. Your mind is loyal to your programming. And unless you challenge the story, you keep reinforcing the same old wound. How do I rewrite this story, coach? Some of you may ask yourself, and if you're enrolled in the Trauma to Triumph 90-Day Healing Challenge, you may be wondering, we've spent a lot of time talking about our story, talking about next week, we're going to be talking about your triggers and the patterns in your life. A lot of these first 3 weeks are categorized under one word: awareness. Because rewriting your story starts with awareness, not effort. That's why I tell the clients now, for those of you that are in the April session of the Healing Challenge, when we're talking about cataloging the root of your story, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just calling your awareness to these things that already stand out to you. I just want you to write them down. And then next week, we'll be talking about your triggers and your patterns. Why? Because it's awareness. You can't change the patterns if you don't recognize the story that's driving it. That's why this week is about the root of your story. And then next week is about the triggers and the patterns, because you can't rewrite what you're afraid to admit you believe. And that's exactly what we do inside the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge. We help you to identify your core inner child narratives. What are the stories that have been driving your life? And then we trace them back to the wound that they were written from. That's why these documenting the root of your story is so important. And then we reframe the story from your healed self, not the one that's still in the pain, not the version of you that is still holding on to the limiting belief, because this time you're the author and you have the pen. That's the power of this challenge. And really, that's a power you've always had. Even the narrative that you're living by today, you're the one that created it. Many people think their trauma gave them the narrative. The trauma is the event. The story and the narrative is yours. What did you tell yourself because of what happened to you? What did you tell yourself you deserve because of what happened to you? What did you tell yourself would never happen for you because of what happened to you? What did you tell yourself you did not deserve because of what happened to you? It is what you told yourself because of what happened that is driving your life, which means you've always had the power of authorship. You just have been living by this event. Does this make sense to you all? Michelle says, from childhood, it becomes the foundation of the false mental prison we build our world upon. So precise. The narrative becomes this false illusion of safety that I needed to feel safe, is now the prison that is limiting me from reaching my greatest aspirations. And if I don't heal the wound that this narrative is written from, it'll just reappear in different parts of my life. I may go get relationship counseling. Oh man, I know how to navigate a little bit better in relationships. It's just going to show up in another area of my life because the wound is still open and fresh. I offer you this. If you're tired of repeating those same patterns that don't make sense to you, if you're tired of feeling like your past is still in control, then not only is this your moment, but you're right on time because we're only in week number 2. The Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge is a 12-week guided method to heal those inner child wounds. We ship you your own workbook that has all 12 sessions in it. We'll get you your workbook within 2 to 3 days of you actually processing your enrollment. You'll get your links to our private Zoom sessions, which we call our masterclass, which is where the real work and the magic actually happens. You'll get a lifetime tool of how to rewrite the narratives, the stories that have been shaping your life. This isn't you coming and over the 12 weeks, we do something with you or I use this tool to help you reach a goal. This is us teaching you this method that you will have with you throughout your life, that when different stories, different situations, different circumstances, different traumas resurfaces in your life, you're able to identify the root, you're able to identify the narrative that's driving from that trauma, and then you're able to reframe it so that it is no longer dictating outcomes in your life. As we stated, you can still use promo code Firm Decision 2025 to save $200 off of your enrollment. If you would like to enroll in the Healing Challenge, you can check out the link tree in my bio or simply check out the description of this video. I want to close here. The version of you who wrote the old story was trying to survive. The version of you listening now is ready to live and thrive. And the next chapter does not write itself. You do. For those of you joining us on YouTube, thank you for being a part of this conversation. Please do like and subscribe to the page, as well as turn on your notification bell so that you're notified whenever we release new content. I love you all, and as always, happy healing.